Community Development, Andrew McNichol for the town of Reading. We're of course here for the Walkersbrook Drive Design Forum, really an informational session, but we'll go ahead and get started tonight. So I'm just gonna move the slides forward here. If that works. Sorry, give me 1 second here, see why that's not working. All right. Just to start with some brief introductions, as I mentioned, I'm Andrew McNichol. I wanted to start by introducing my project team. Senior planner Olivia Knightley is here tonight, town engineer Ryan Percival. There's a few others in the room as well, economic development director Kevin McCarthy, DPW director Chris Cole, and of course town manager Matt Cronalis, all of which who have been huge supporters in helping us get this far, as well as a number of other staff divisions that we've collaborated on throughout this process, including public safety, procurement, and many others. So just a huge shout out to the staff at Town Hall for doing a great job working with us. Our consultant team as well from Kimley Horn, Lisa Wan is here tonight, and her team in Peyton and Liam. And of course the Reading Select Board, members who are here tonight and who have stayed involved in this project as well, which has been a great collaboration. So a huge shout out and a big thank you, and a thank you to all of you for coming, for those of you who have been aware of this project and who are here to learn about it a bit. So we're here for your feedback, we're here to share our information with you, that's the point of this meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started tonight. Oh, if I can ask real quick though that the select board call to order. I believe you have a quorum here.
What's it?
Melissa, I think we'll try to ask you if you can hear me. Which someone asked if there is sound, so I just want to make sure they can hear me.
Sounds like they're having a hard time hearing.
Hello, if I lean closer to the mic, can you on Zoom hear me now?
They can hear. Can't hear. Okay, can't hear you.
We can't hear them. Interesting.
Do you unmute?
I don't think. If I do, nope. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so I think if I just stay close to this mic, hopefully you can hear me a little better. Seems like some people are able to hear me now.
Is it on?
It is.
1 second.
Which I'm happy to restart if I have to.
Is your laptop muted?
My laptop is muted.
Maybe you guys unmute your laptop?
When I unmute, it's the echo. I'm gonna go ahead and go forward. Hopefully you on the Zoom can hear me. Lisa, keep in mind, maybe stick close to this microphone. So we are looking to run a hybrid meeting tonight, of course. We have a number of members from the public here in the audience here at the library. We do have a good handful of members on the Zoom as well. If you are on the Zoom when we get to the Q&A period, please feel free to use the raise hand feature found under reactions if you have a question, or you can type it directly to us in the chat, and we're happy to recite it and try to answer it as best we can. So thank you again for attending. And we'll go ahead and move on. Oh, right. Thank you for the reminder. Melissa, I think you're unmuted if you can call to order.
I don't think you can hear us still. But I can ask her to speak and see if we can hear her.
Andrew, that microphone is for me for broadcast. It's not connected to the Zoom in any way. But everyone on RCTV can hear you, but that is not for the Zoom.
Interesting.
I don't know if that helps.
You unmute your computer underneath this.
That's what I tried. Is that better for? If I do that, is this better for people on Zoom? This seems to be working. Okay. Okay.
All right, let's try one more time with Melissa.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Melissa, could you try calling to order? The problem is I don't think the speakers will work now.
I need to ask her to unmute one more time. The hybrid meeting.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I will call the select board to order with a roll call vote. I cannot see who's in the room, but I know that Carlo is online.
Yep. Karen and Karen are in the room.
And so I'll do a roll call vote. So Carlo,
If you can find him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Karen Herrick,
Here.
Karen Rose Gillis,
Here.
and Melissa Murphy here. I don't believe Chris is on. If he is, please let me know.
I don't think we saw him.
Okay. I didn't think he was, but just double checking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I am just gonna start again on the Zoom ways to communicate. So if you are on Zoom, thank you for bearing with us as we figure out the technical difficulties here. When we get to the Q&A period, if you can please use the chat to type your questions directly to us. We'll look to make sure the audience is aware of them and answer them as best we can. You can also alternatively use the raised hand feature under the reaction tools, and we'll look to call on you that way, and that would be great. So thank you for coming tonight. I think it's just a little laggy here. So tonight we're here to explain the project purpose, the timeline, and how we got here tonight, what we heard in 2024 that led us to these next phases. We're going to go over the past alternatives that were designed in the previous years, the approach to the advancements and the next steps so everybody is familiar together with the next year's worth of work. And we want to hear from you and have you talk to us. That's really the major point here tonight as well. We've already collected some preliminary feedback. A number of people who weren't aware of this. This is why we're doing this informational session, to catch everybody up to speed, make sure as many people are talking about this as possible. We've gotten some feedback that people are excited for wider sidewalks, better connections to their neighborhood and along the roadway, and we'll delve into a lot of that tonight. So the project's purpose is really to look at the Walker's Brook Drive corridor. Many of you probably, which are familiar, being home to a number of retail shops, including Market Basket, Home Depot, what was previously Staples. So a lot of high retail drivers up and down the corridor, but maybe lacking in a bit of pedestrian connections. The sidewalks are a bit narrower down there. It's a 4-lane highway as it is, as Lisa will explain tonight. But the purpose of this project and advancing the design is to look for alternative ways to accommodate all modes of transportation in safer manners and improved manners and in efficient manners. That can be walking, that could be biking, that can be vehicles as well. So all of them play a major role in accessing the corridor, and all of them play a role in the improvement of the corridor. We want to enhance the community connectivity and try to reduce the reliance on single occupancy vehicles where it makes sense, right? Better sidewalks means better ability to walk. Better crossings means better ways to get across the street. And we want to do this because we're also working, if you aren't familiar with what the town has deemed the Eastern Gateway Initiative, it's a planning, zoning, and land use initiative looking at the entire district up and along the west side of Walker's Brook Drive to potentially look for and allow for mixed-use development, maybe some housing allowances, new commercial allowances, to encourage development and revitalization of the area. And so working those two things in collaboration is really set to help the town think about the long term of the area and how we design it and our infrastructure accordingly, and how we want this district and area to function over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. So it all comes together into one vision here, and that's why we're doing this now. This really did start quite a while ago. If you aren't familiar with it, it actually started back in 2018. The 40B development in Eaton Lakeview, which is just off the corner of Walker's Brook, was a 40B proposal that came in at about 120 units, I think, at the time. The neighborhood collected, discussed that project, the developer worked with them, the town worked with them. It came down to about 86 residential units. There's still a good handful left to build. But this really derived there, where the neighborhood in the traffic impact study asked to take a deep delve into the Lakeview and Walker's Brook intersection rather than any type of Band-Aid approach from that 40B development. That subsequently led into additional grant work and developer funding to study the entire corridor and adjoining corridors in 2019 with Green International at the time, who did that peer review. So that took a preliminary conceptual look at the entire area and how the connections work and what improvements could be considered in the future. In 2020, 2021, right, understandably, there was a small break, realigning to focus a bit on other priorities through the pandemic as MBTA communities came back online and things of that nature that the town focused on. But in 2023, this project started to revitalize again because we secured a $250,000 grant from the Housing Choice Program to look at the Walker's Brook Drive corridor specifically and advance to a conceptual near 10% level. Competitive project because of the retail corridor, because of the long-term vision of the town. So it was a really competitive and satisfactory process, I think, for the state and the local government. That led us into pushing into this next grant award where we secured $500,000 from the MassWorks program to push a preferred concept that much further and into the state programming. So that's why we're here tonight. That's what we're going to start and explain what that process will look like, where we're at. We're still early in this. There's a lot of room for feedback and new incorporations as we advance and hopefully, ideally, keep progressing the plan into construction level ready, get onto the state program, and see improvements from there. What we heard in 2024 and why you'll see what you'll see tonight is that people do use this corridor frequently, unsurprisingly, for many retail trips like the groceries, like your general needs throughout the week. But people also recognize that there's a lack of, pedestrian ability, lack of comfort in the area. If you do want to walk it, if you want to walk to Market Basket or get there from adjoining neighborhoods that you don't live too far away from, that people recognize the need and benefit of wider sidewalks, improved crossings, taking a look at these things to see how we can help it function better overall for everybody in the many different ways that are possible to get there. That was a strong feeling. That's why we're here tonight and why we've continued to advance the work, because there's a vast variety of opinions, but a vast strength and support for this project. And so that's very plausible for the town and the residents to continue moving this forward, and that's why we're here. I'm going to pass it to Lisa Wan, who's going to explore the alternatives and where we go from here, and then we'll take questions. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. So just a reminder, Andrew did mention about the goal. So the goal is to really transform this 4-lane undivided roadway to be more walkable. We want people to feel safe when walking, biking. We want to make sure that people of all ages and abilities are able to connect from one area to another area. So from the western end in Reading all the way to Wakefield to the Lake Quannapowitt, we want to make sure that there's good connectivity. So the corridor is generally 2 lanes in each direction. There are shoulders in each direction, and it ranges between 2 to 4 feet. Sidewalks are generally provided, but there is a gap missing on the north side of Walker's Brook, right near the Home Depot Drive, all the way to the interchange. And when we look at the trail in Wakefield, it's on the north side. So we really want to make sure that the multimodal alternative, we want to connect residents all the way to Lake Quannapowitt in Wakefield. So we really want to make sure that we connect the alternatives. So the potential improvements, it includes 3 different alternatives. The 3 different alternatives, it really accommodates different types of people. Some people may feel more comfortable riding on road. Some people may feel more comfortable riding on a shared use path. Some people may more comfortable on a two-way off-road two-way cycle track. It really varies between the 3 different multimodal alternatives. One thing that we want to note is that right now it's a 4-lane undivided roadway. For our proposed roadway configuration in all of these 3 multimodal alternatives, it's generally going to be 1 through lane, and it's going to have left turn lanes. When we think about crashes, from a 4-lane to a 3-lane, there is the statistics that crashes, of the total crashes, it does reduce from 19 to 47%, because if you think about the left turn and the rear end crashes, especially with the improvement of the left turn lane. So we want to keep that in mind, is that there is a roadway reconfiguration when we're thinking about this corridor. So the next couple of sections, we are really going to be describing more about the different alternatives. So the first alternative is going to be an on-road buffer bike lane. So this on-road, it's going to be a flush buffer zone, and it's right between the curb and the travel lane. So this buffer is great because it does provide some separation, but it's not a physical separation, and you are next to a motor vehicles. Sidewalk facilities are going to be provided on both sides, really completing the gap between the north side. The second alternative is a shared use path. So for a shared use path, you can accommodate a variety of different users. It's walkers, bikers, joggers, people with pets, and so forth. So this is a shared facility. It is also physically separated from the motorized vehicle. So you have your travel lanes, then you have a shoulder, then you have your curb, and then you have some landscape buffer, and then you have your shared use path. Again, sidewalks are also going to be provided on the north side, really filling in the gap, but then we also have a 4-foot shoulders. So those who feel more comfortable riding on road, they are welcome to, but it won't be marked, but we will have a shared use path for all other users as well. The next alternative is going to be the off-road two-way cycle track. So the off-road two-way cycle track, this is exclusive for the bicyclists. It's going to be adding complete separation between the bicyclists and the pedestrians. It's a physical separation from the adjacent travel lanes, and it's at the same level as the sidewalk facilities, if you guys can imagine that, and the typical sections kind of can see that. Again, really similar when we're thinking about the shared use path. Sidewalk facilities are going to be provided on both sides. Again, 4-foot shoulders are going to be provided on both sides for those who feel more comfortable riding on the road. So we went through the 3 different alternatives in 2023 and 2024. And now we're at the phase of the preferred alternative. And how we determine the preferred alternative is that we have an evaluation matrix. It's really important is that when we're thinking about the different infrastructure types and the implementation, we need a way to actually systematically assess the different alternatives. So this provides a structured benefit. So we have different criteria that we looked at. We looked at multimodal benefit. We looked at the different traffic operations. We looked at the traffic performance in the sense of how is the operation? What is the delay? What's the queue? How are you feeling when you're looking at these intersections when you're traveling along the roadway? We're also looking at right-of-way impacts. That is really key as well. Also looking at environmental. And the public support is going to be based on the 2023 and 2024 information that we gathered. And even here tonight, it is going to help us out, especially as this project progresses. So please tell us your feedback as you keep going on. And then lastly, the project costs. So this was in the 2024 dollar values. So as you can see here, there are 3 different alternatives, and the different colors are going to be the highly favorable, which is basically the colored circle of the blue with the blue background, and then the red is like a minimal favorable. So when you're looking at these 3 alternatives, alternative 2 is the preferred alternative. In the next 2 slides, we're going to share the plan view, but the plan view is also on the wall as well, underneath the existing conditions. In this phase, we need to determine the transition of the western portion. Basically, where's the shared use path going to start? How is it going to connect from the sidewalk? How will the north side of Walker's Brook and the south side, how will these connect? So this phase, we're going to go a little bit more in detail. In addition, as you see in this plan view, there are some colors on here of like the property lines that are in red. There are the wetlands that are in darker blue, and there's utility infrastructure. Just knowing that this project is not going to be completely within town public layout, but there's going to be coordination of this. And that's what we're doing in this phase and future phases as well. So this is just a continuation of the project corridor, just a shared use path on the south side, and having a sidewalk facility on the north side that completes the gap. Again, really need to figure out the crossing between the north and south side of Walker's Brook. All right, so when we are looking at the corridor, the signalized intersection at Home Depot and New Crossing Road, those are going to remain as a signal. The only change is going to be the allowance of the dedicated left turn lane, and that will be a protected phase. Okay, so when we're looking at these different alternatives, these 2 signalized intersection, again, New Crossing and also Home Depot, those are going to remain. The one that we are asking for more feedback on is going to be at the general way. The main purpose for this alternative is that we want to allow full access movement, in the sense that we want folks that want to turn a northbound left going to John Street, going to Washington Street, they are allowed to make that movement. So back in 2024, we analyzed the signalized intersection having full access, just in the sense that General Way will be able to go, and then you have your Salem 5 Bank that will be able to go, and then you have your Walker's Brook, they will be able to go. Also in 2024, we analyzed the single lane roundabout with a bypass lane as well. So since then, we gotten started in 2025, we further analyzed what other alternatives can there be, because there's so many great ideas that are out there, but there are a lot of, when we're looking at the evaluation matrix later on, there's a lot of information that we need to take account for. This has really been thought about talking to internal stakeholders, town staff. So since then, we also took a look at a signalized intersection with Lakeview, in the sense that closing John Street to Walker's Brook and Salem 5 Bank driveway along Walker's Brook, and have the access to Lakeview, have Lakeview be a signalized intersection with General Way. And then also a single lane roundabout. We'll show it to you in a couple of slides, but there's more property impact when we're thinking about the single lane roundabout with a bypass versus a single lane roundabout. When we're looking at all of these intersections, you're probably thinking, well, what's the traffic like now? So right now, when we're looking at the traffic, the overall traffic signals, it operates at like a level service C. Just think about it is that it's a little bit slow, but traffic is always moving. There's some platooning, but you are able to get in and out. So that's the overall level of service, but there are some movements that do operate at D. And then when we are analyzing the traffic conditions for the unsignalized intersections, such as John and Lake, it depends on the time of day, but some of these movements, it does operate poorly in the sense that it's an LOSF because they need to wait for a gap in the traffic to actually turn a left out. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the general way alternatives. So the first option is the signalized intersection. Again, this is allowing the northbound left turn. In all of these movements and all of these designs, it is going to allow that northbound left turn movement. So for the flow of traffic here, you're going to have your westbound left turn. They will have a protected phase. They will go first. And then you have your walkers, Brook, your east and westbound, then they're going to go. And then you'll have your general way, that will have its own phase. And then you'll have your Salem 5 Bank Drive, that will have its own phase. So the only addition is going to be the northbound left turn. The second option, it's really rough, but we're trying to think about how does Lakeview come into general way? So again, this is just more of like a concept level. We're really trying to define how can we consolidate some of these access and then kind of push it to Lakeview. Again, the flow of the traffic is really similar in the sense that Lakeview would all go at its own phase, General Way would go at its own phase, and then same thing with Walker's Brook as well. So this is one option since the 2024 phase. So when we think about roundabouts, it really does provide significant improvements, especially when we're thinking about the flow of traffic. You are continuously moving. You are not stopped at a red light. And then also think about the severity of the crashes. It is reduced because you don't have that angled crash. You're just always flowing. So you do need to enter the roundabout, but you're able to find that gap. So this option here, it's a single lane roundabout with a bypass lane. The bypass lane is going to be along Walker's Brook Drive, just making sure that people are able to continue westbound through. So one thing that we really want to iterate is that we are continuing to coordinate with Mass DOT. So the driveway access, the permit, those needs to be coordinated because as you can see here now, we do need to combine the access of Salem 5 Bank. How does it tie in with Lakeview? Again, this is the phase that we're in. We need to think about all of these access. The next one is going to be the single lane roundabout. Basically, just without the roundabout, it's less impact to the Salem 5 Bank property, but there are driveway modifications here. Again, really important as we continue to advance this with Mass DOT, we need to talk about access, driveway, consolidation, and all that stuff. So it's not as though today we're going to walk away with alternatives. We just want your feedback on two of the alternatives that are preferred. And we need to have coordination with Mass DOT as this project advances. Really similar to the corridor, we also have an evaluation matrix for the 4 different alternatives. So at the signal, there's 2 different alternatives. It's going to be the full signal, or it could be a connectivity with Lakeview. Again, the only difference of these evaluation matrix is the addition of maintenance and the accommodation for emergency vehicles. So those are the 2 differences when we're looking at the matrix here. So as you can see here, it's still really thought out about the Lakeview Avenue, but in generally the traffic signal with the full movement, that is more preferred than the Lakeview option. And then again, this is the single lane roundabout, and then the single lane roundabout with the bypass lane. The key things that we need to think about here is really going to be the right-of-way impacts. That's a big differ, the cost of it, and then also the environmental impacts. Ultimately, for the preferred alternatives for this intersection, it is the signalized intersection and it's a single lane roundabout. We do have boards in the back that plots these two options. We really want your feedback. Again, we do need to tie in the Salem 5 Bank driveway. We need to tie in the Lakeview. We need to tie into John Street. So those accommodations are still going to be worked up, but we want your thoughts, we want your opinions as we progress between the signalized or the single lane roundabout. And also we're going to have that continuing coordination with Mass DOT as well. So I just have a couple of more slides. So as Andrew mentioned, is that we really want to advance this project. When we looked at the timeline, this project started back in 2018. What's been so great is that the town was able to get 2 grant awards, which we're doing right now, almost $500,000. But we would like to proceed with receiving federal funding and getting on the Transportation Improvement Program. That is really key. In order to get on the Transportation Improvement Program, the state, the MPO, they really prioritize transportation projects that preserve the current transportation system, really providing safe transportation for all modes. That is really key. We want to make this more multimodal. We want to have safer crossing. When you guys were looking at what we heard in 2024, the main thing is safer crossings. And that's what we need to accommodate when we're looking at this design here. So this is just a really high level of the project process. So there's 3 main steps when we're working with Mass DOT. One is the project initiation, the second one is the project need, and the last one is the project review committee, also known as the PRC. So currently, we are in the project need. We are in the midst of completing the project definition. Again, there are some items that needs to be worked out regarding what exactly is the project definition for General Way, but tonight we want your feedback. Again, it's a continuous coordination with Mass DOT. Throughout, we're going to have a site walk with Mass DOT, have a long conversation about this project, really make sure that we didn't miss anything on our side. Are there other thoughts that they may have as well? So before we actually go around, as Andrew mentioned, we would love to do a Q&A. So if you all would like to raise your hand in person or on the chat. Okay. Yeah. Hi.
Yes, hi, Kyle Torno, right here. I was wondering, have you done a pedestrian count of activity on the street?
Yes. So as Tom asked, did we do a pedestrian count on the streets? Yes. So for our traffic study, we did do a full depth analysis of how are the intersections operating right now, and you can find the report online on the project website. When we conducted the turning movement counts in the sense of like how many cars are turning left, through, right, it does account for the pedestrian activity. And it also accounts for the bicycle activity, which may be a little bit low at this moment. But when we looked at the pedestrian activity, the counts, there are people crossing. Maybe it's not, 1,500, but there are about like 15 or so during this peak hour. So people are crossing here.
Did you tag them so we know how far they're going?
In line with pedestrian, so if you're trying to, I don't know if this is more of a running planning question, if you're trying to promote like a more walkable Reading, are you also sort of looking at like going from Main Street to Walker's Bridge and what those sidewalks are like? And
Yes, so this is just one piece, right, of the long-term vision. We're hopeful with some other grant funding and to continue advance that one day we can look at Main Street, we can look at the Ash Street connection, we can partner with private development if it comes in the area, continue to improve neighborhood connections with sidewalk facilities as time goes on, piece by piece. These things do take time. They are expensive projects at times, But we are most definitely looking at all the connection pieces.
My name's Duke Oaks, and I heard in the beginning, a very large portion of the goals was walkability and bicycles. But when I read your charts, figure 10, 11, for pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic, it's exceedingly low. And to do this, you're going to give up a lane of traffic and come down to 3, which will greatly decrease flow. Those of us who come up and down Main Street, we went from 4 lanes to a designated turn lane. And all I see is people doing the best of it to try to make it into gas stations, stores, homes, and places. It went from a good flow on Main Street to what is pretty much a poor flow. So I think we have an excellent example of Main Street, particularly south of the Common, that shows that the 4-lane to 3-lane, I think you're going to be hard pressed to have that happen and not really cut flow and increase difficulty of people driving. Now, fortunately, we have mostly Massachusetts drivers who can drive through anything. And you give us a challenge and we'll get through it. But I don't see a $4 million, $10 million project for increasing some walkability. And there's no walkability from the get into Walker Drive out. I mean, it's the same. You won't be able to change your way into Wakefield with designated bikeways. You won't be able to come up Washington Street with it. So you'll have about a mile or about 4,000 feet there of super duper bike lanes and pedestrian lanes. And for that, you're giving up a great deal of capability for a great deal of money.
So please add to, but I think when we look at it in future projections, right, we look at the efficiencies in the change of these designs, and the traffic still flows efficiently in the designs, and it does on Main Street to a degree as well. Of course, left-hand turning movements, dedicated turning movements, shorter crossings, right, those are the things that you weight in the differences. And so wider sidewalks, you asked if people don't cross or walk there now. Is it a lack of accommodations? Is it a lack of housing options there? Is it a lack of connections? All of those are probably true in its current state. It's about the long term, where we're trending towards what we may allow in the future and improving those future connection points.
But this isn't a village where people walk from place to place, which is understandable. These businesses, people don't walk to these businesses. I mean, you're not going to bring, you have occasionally seen a walker. They'll walk out to the bus stop with some groceries, and actually they'll usually leave their cart there, which I'm sure the stores aren't big for, and get on a bus and go on down. Is it the Medford bus? I think it goes down over there. You use the word efficiency. I can't find it here. Now, I haven't studied it as much as you people have, and it's a very good report. I haven't given a fair amount of time on it. But the word efficiency is nice, but now we're getting down to the numbers, and I can't find it.
I think the only thing that I would add is that, yes, when you're looking at the existing conditions, when you're looking at the existing conditions of how many people are walking or biking now, it is fairly low, but then we need to think about how is the accommodations right now? Is it walkable? And in our alternative, what we're trying to achieve is that we would like to have some landscape buffer. It could be some trees, it could be some shrubberies, but basically have a little bit more of a separation so people feel a little bit more safe when walking along the corridor. You could be living near Lake and Village and then walk to Starbucks or walk to Chili's. We want to make that as a choice for folks. One thing is that we want to note is that when you're looking at the current configuration right now, it is a 4-lane roadway. We understand that. But when you want to turn a left turn, you are stopped, and then the people behind you, they could either be turning a left or they could be trying to go through. That does cause some delay. With our new design is that we're going to have a designated left turn lane for those folks with a protected phase. So yes, when you're looking at the flow of the through lanes, the queue is going to slightly increase, but when we're talking about those movements of turning lefts, those will be protected, and that's going to help with the safety aspects of it. And then don't forget is that when we're looking at the crash statistics is that when you convert from a 4-lane to a 3-lane, it does reduce the amount of total crashes because you're going to have that reduction of that left turn and through crashes.
Did you mention crashes?
Yes.
Your report shows that the crashes are actually less than similar areas throughout the state.
Yes.
And the present condition.
Yes, understood. But we could even reduce even more.
But at what price? Because I'll carry on. I live on Reading Terrace, and I come out Putnam onto Main Street. And one time I counted 92 cars I had to wait for before I get out onto Main Street. Okay, and it's with the new configuration of Main Street down to a single lane and a turning lane. I kind of concur with the gentleman behind me, is that we need to not just, I know you're trying to accommodate many uses, but I'm also an avid biker, and I stopped biking on the road. It's just too dangerous. Okay, so you're going to accommodate bicycles for a short period with a dedicated lane, but then you're not going to have connectivity to riding around Corner Power or riding into downtown to Melrose or up. I go to Harold Parker, I mountain bike in Lynn Woods, So I'm trying to figure out, it's a little piece, but I'm not sure the overall inconvenience that you're adding to certain people that use the 4 lanes is worth the benefit you're giving to a limited set of bicyclists.
So it's not just about bicyclists, but Wakefield is adding on-street bike lanes on their half down towards Lake Bonaparte. They already have, but it's not just about bicyclists. It's about the whole atmosphere, the whole design, and its treatment for the multiple of users, including vehicles, including walkers, including bikers. So there are connection points that do need to continue to be made, but if you don't start with one connection to connect to, ultimately we'll find ourselves in the same loop of not improving it or not making those additional connections or improvements necessary from neighborhoods to this area and to further places beyond. So it does start somewhere, and this is one alternative that keeps it off-road, separates it, and can lead to direct connections to the downtown area where we've built mixed-use destination districts. The Eastern Gateway continues to look at those opportunities as well. So there's a lot of long-term thought going into this process in this entire area. But I do appreciate, and you're probably not the only one who says, I don't bike in Reading anymore because you don't have the accommodations. So improving them leads more people to say, I will bike in Reading, right, if you just have that
I'm not so sure that's true. I think improving accommodations in a segment, if it was systematically throughout the whole town, connected to other towns.
Right, but I'll never be able to do all the town at once.
Well, I understand that, but I look at, I go down to South Boston where my niece is, and we cross over past the convention center. And I can see, I can guess maybe 3 times I've seen a bicycle on the path there. Okay, no more parking, down to 1 lane. I don't get it, I really don't.
I hear you. I'm going to jump to the gentleman in the back who had his hands up a little while ago. Yep. And then we'll jump to Zoom. There's probably some hands up.
Thank you. Ron Powell, South Street. I just wanted to build on what these 2 gentlemen were saying. What you're saying about efficiency and safety is correct for traffic volumes up to 25,000 vehicles per day. That's what the Mass DOT says. Right now, Walker's Brook Drive has 23,340 vehicles per day. So they're right on the upper threshold for that. So if you think of it as a stoplight, Main Street, I think, has 18,000, 19,000. They're a green light for a road tire. Walker's Brook is yellow changing to red for a road tire. in terms of efficiency and safety. It's what you said about having the center lane reducing collisions. As you get more traffic, you have head-to-head traffic in the center lane turning too. So you lose that safetiness above 25,000. One thing I wanted to, one concern I have is that as we add new retail, and now there's talk about Trader Joe's possibly moving in to the corridor, and as we build Eastern Gateway, that traffic volume is only going to increase. So the question I have is, when we exceed 25,000 vehicles per day, should we take a closer look at that to make sure that we really are gaining in efficiency and safety?
So as part of the project design report, we did take a look at the future conditions. So our existing conditions are taking the 2025 counts, and then when we looked at a 10-year projection for the 2035. So as part of this projection, we did assume a background growth rate. And then we also did account for the Eastern Gateway District as well. When we're looking at the operations at these signalized intersections, we took a look at the AM, typical weekday, AM, PM, and also midday. Yes, the overall level of service at these signalized intersections, it operates at C. There are movements that are going to be operating at D and potentially even in E as we are thinking about the future traffic conditions. However, these are just during the peak hours. That's something that I just want to reiterate. When we looked at these future conditions, we looked at the volume to capacity, just in the sense that what's the capacity of this approach or this intersection can it accommodate by looking at the volumes. When looking at the V over C, it was not at 1. Maybe it was at like 0.8 something, but it was not 1.50. It was able to accommodate with this reduction of the other through lane with the accommodation of the left lane. We do need to make sure that when we're looking at signals, it's like signal optimization in the sense that if there's no left turn, if there's no vehicles in the left turn movement, maybe that phase gets skipped. Then it goes to your through lane. A signal does help with that, especially with the detection in place. Definitely understand is that there is going to be a reduction in the through lane, but there is going to be that added benefit of the left turn lanes. But then also, if you are a resident living near there, if you're just grabbing milk, maybe you can, if it's walkable, maybe you can change your mode and maybe let's walk or bike or scoot around. Instead of getting in your car, let's go through the intersection. You could reduce that.
I'm curious about the town has a lot of cut-through traffic between the highways. Like the 129 at REI, I see a lot of traffic going Lowell, Salem up to, the 129 entrance to 93 because of the congestion at the busiest interstate interchange in Massachusetts, which is the one in our town at 93, 95. So we all know from common experience there's a lot of that going on. I would suspect, I don't know if you have data, that some of that might be coming up through the Wakefield area, through Walker's Brook, through town. Washington Street is a nightmare right now at Main Street. That's all coming from the corridor that you're hoping to fix here. And I would just mention to others that there are these other things going on where if we can reduce the cut-through, encourage people to say, I'm going to go on 128 and go to the interchange and tough it out, rather than cutting through our town, this is something we should be trying to encourage. So I would say that in addition to the benefits you're mentioning, which I agree with, that this benefit of potentially throttling cut-through traffic, which has gotten way worse at Reading, could also result from these options.
Thank you for the comments. I see other hands up. I do want to jump on Zoom, who has probably had some hands up for a minute.
One question in the chat, 2 raised hands, but Mike M is asking about the total project cost and what the impact on the Reading taxpayers would be, if any.
So the total project cost was estimated in 2024 in the report. I want to say around 4 to 5 million. Again, we're looking for the State Transportation Improvement Program to get onto that list to receive state funding for this project. In terms of long-term for the town, it's the same general maintenance you have on the roadway today, right? Virtually the same right-of-way with some additional feet in terms of alternative 2, but generally the same
On that matter, is there a town contribution toward those numbers?
At this point, not right now that we've identified. If there are outside of right-of-way needs, if there's work outside of the right-of-way, there's potential town costs to that, and that's something we have to evaluate further.
Isn't there a required 25% even on this first grant?
Not on the MassWorks grant that I recall.
The site says 25% local addition.
As far as I know, we have a $500,000 grant. I don't recall local funding.
You didn't have to, we don't have to contribute beyond that.
Not for this.
What about in the actual construction then?
I don't know the exact tip requirements, but I believe there may be a 10% match.
How much?
10%. I'd have to go back and further evaluate that. I'm not 100% sure on that.
And one last, maybe a trivial thing. On a job like this, it needs police protection. Is that covered in the federal monies?
Typically, police details would be in the construction budget and cost estimates.
That would be to the town charge?
I don't know the finer details if TIP would cover that or not.
Just so you can add that in on the
Yeah, I'll double check
town
that.
part, because that could be $300,000-$400,000.
Right, yeah, I think they can add up, so I'll double check that. That's a good question.
Please add that to
We got it.
line item.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
One raised hand. It's just iPad, so it'll probably come through the computer. They disappeared. Try one more time. Can you do that in?
Hi, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Awesome, perfect, thank you. This is Greg Jones. I'm at 26 Avon Street. So I am on a butter. Some of the comments that we're talking about Main Street and the effects of going from 4 to 3 lanes, I can say as someone who's directly been impacted by that, I shared some of the comments that were made earlier, and that I thought it was going to significantly increase our inability to access Main Street. I can say, having now lived here since they've made the changes, it's actually made it significantly easier and also safer for us to enter Main Street from Avon. So I can say that, the concerns going from 4 lanes to 3 hasn't had, and I know everybody's looking at statistics, but real world experience, I'm talking first thing in the morning, dealing with rush hour traffic, coming home at night, weekends. We're right around the corner from Big World, so all the traffic there. It has not had any impact. If anything, it's made it safer for us to access Main Street from a side street directly onto Main Street. So I actually feel as though this project is going to create a safer environment overall. And so I agree with the statistics that speak to that. I agree with moving from 4 lanes to 3 because it already goes down from 2 to 1 right there at General Way. And usually people are not even abiding by the current flow of traffic, the way that it's designed. So, I'm actually in favor of this. My concern that I have is access for Lakeview and John Street. I think those are the areas that really need to, I personally feel like you need to have the 2-lane roundabout. I feel like that's going to create the best flow, the best access for everybody. However, it's going to significantly impact the ability for those on Lakeview to access going eastbound, as well as John Street. And even now with its current setup, that's a challenge. We have friends that are over there. We go over there every once in a while. It's kind of a pain. My last point that I will make is we're on Avon Street. This is directly going to impact us in the long run. For me to go to Home Depot, Starbucks, that whole area over there, I drive. It's a half a mile. but I drive because there really is not any good quality, safe pedestrian access. And so if you create an environment that is going to allow us to access that more easily and safer, I'm all for it. And what that's going to do is it's going to reduce traffic, because it's going to allow those that want to use a bicycle or walk to have better access, safer access to those businesses. So I think you all have come up with some really great ideas here. Again, my concerns are Lakeview and John Street. I think you really need to look deeper into how that's going to impact them and how they can better access this whole kind of reconfiguration of that intersection. But you've done a great job. I feel like it should go. That whole area should go from 4 to 3. So I applaud you all for the efforts, and I'm actually going to be more involved now because I want to be able to help support and give feedback where appropriate. So thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. Just my last one on Zoom that I'll try to do before jumping back to in-audience was Natalie asked, is there any prioritization of elements of this plan? We know General Way needs movement improvements that most people would agree on that. Would those changes need to wait on agreement on the full plan and eventual rollout to move forward? And she also added that I'll also add my real world experience as someone who is on John Street, directly by the area. We definitely walk to the grocery store and would enjoy better sidewalks and walkability. Right now, electing to move the whole project forward onto the transportation improvement program would give you the most competitive of that program. To look at that intersection alone probably wouldn't be enough for the transportation improvement program, so it would fall onto the town locally, which you could pursue complete streets or other local funding opportunities. But for the transportation improvement program, looking at the whole corridor, I think is your most competitive bet. I'm going to jump to in-person questions again, and then Taylor in the back.
Great, thank you guys for this and taking all the time to do it. Just one quick comment and then question for you on the bike lanes. Quick comment is I'm also in the area. I'm on Green Street, probably 6 inches off the map that you guys have here. I am probably one of those people who's not counted in the walkers when you guys did that, but would be if it was better, because I'm very close. I've done the walk a couple times. One time I had to get a wheelbarrow from Home Depot and it didn't fit in my car, and I had to walk that down the street, which was not super fun. So I would love that area to be better. So that's just a sort of note for, just because you have the counts now, like, yes, they will get better. I will be one of those to commit to making it better. And then the question is on the bike lane piece. So I bike fairly frequently as well on the area, and I guess I have more of a comment of how I would do this, and then I'm curious your thoughts on it. Regardless of which of these plans you go with, I'm going to stay biking on the street, because I am coming from around where Wakefield is. I'm then going to where John Street is. I'm not going to cross over and then cross over again, realistically. So whichever one it is, that is how I'm going to remain biking. So of course, I like the idea of the actual bike lanes. I didn't realize that there was a buffer in the other ones. That definitely is better than what it currently is. There's just maybe a little bit of a risk that that feels safe then, because I'm in my own little semi-lane instead of in the lane, and so people don't give me room when they drive past me, and that can be dangerous. So I'm just curious how you thought of that piece and how people will use that, particularly when they're going in that direction as a biker.
I think that, so right now, we do have 4-foot shoulders on each side, but as this project progresses with Mass DOT, they may come back and ask us, can you increase the width of the shoulder to 5 foot, which is basically the minimum width. 4 to 5 feet is the minimum width for the bike lanes. We do need to come up with some transitions of how do you actually connect on road to the shared use path, and that's what we're doing now in this phase. Today, we really want to get your consensus on the preferred plan, which is the shared use path. We then need to think about the transitions of the eastern and western section. Then we really want to understand your thoughts about the intersection layouts at General Way, the signalized intersection, the roundabout, just hearing on the Zoom call, really revisiting, should we really think about the single lane with the bypass lane? There are impacts thinking about it. There's right-of-way impacts, there's environmental impacts, there's a lot of coordination, and during this phase, that's what we're trying to do as well. We're coordinating with these owners, abutters, just to get their consensus as well. What are their thoughts? That's what we're doing in this phase. It's going to be a long conversation with the abutters, business owners, but also with Mass DOT as well.
And just to add on the north side too, the Walker's Brook channel is actually there too, so you do have some limited space in terms of like expanding that right of way or impervious area. There's wetlands up and down that entire corridor, so that's why focusing on the south too for some expansion ability kind of led to default.
I just want to say that I am one of the people, I live on Pleasant Street, and that I absolutely would walk or use my scooter to drive over to Market Basket, Staples, but Home Depot. Getting over there, there's nothing more frustrating to me how close I live, but how it's not safe for me to walk to Market Basket. It's not safe for me to walk on Walker's Brook. If it were easier, I absolutely would, and I'd be able to go down the Lake Point of Howard my dogs much easier. I very much support this one, the alternative.
Just to follow up on the point that the gentleman before me brought up about the cut-through traffic going through town, that's when we originally did the intersection of General Way. The right turn only was intentional to keep the traffic out of the neighborhood. Second thing, we've been talking a lot about access to the lake. To the best of my knowledge, Mass DOT has no intentions of rebuilding the bridge on 95 at any point in time, unless you know something I don't. So, you know, the bike lane, it goes nowhere. Forgive me, I don't understand it. And my last point is, has anybody looked at the impact to the neighborhood, the residents who are around it?
So on the first point, I don't know short-term improvements. I don't think MassDOT is planning anything on that bridge currently either. But this is a starting point to the conversation there. This TIP process takes a long time as well if we want to get this project onto that program, and the amount of time it can take for that, and keep in collaboration with MassDOT specifically on that as well, and try to push them to make as best improvements as they can in that area, because it is a need and it would be a actual benefit for them to review that and look at that. On the impacts to the neighborhood on roundabout versus signal, I stick to like efficiency versus signal, right, and timing. And so
Headlights going around muddy houses at all hours. It's a very bold.
all things to consider. Yeah, heard you.
I think you got disconnected from the Zoom, so they can't hear you online. Sorry.
The only caveat that right now, so we want to eliminate those cut-throughs. So right now at General Way, you can only do a northbound left. We have heard crazy stories is that people would then go to Salem 5 Bank and then make a right and then turn over, or people would actually still make that northbound northbound left. So people are still making these movements, unfortunately, and it's not safe, even though they're not supposed to do that. We're providing an actual dedicated lane and also phases for this movement.
I'm just telling you the history.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It was to eliminate, try to keep the traffic out of the neighborhood. Obviously, the residents, that's our priority.
Yeah.
It's tough enough now to try to get out of that driveways. I don't think anybody wants to see that.
Okay.
I like a roundabout.
Okay, no, but thank you.
I just don't, you can't say no one wants to see a roundabout. I live right there.
Thank you.
I live in the neighborhood too. My kids, I won't let them walk down there, particularly because my kid's 11 now. I want to send them to Market Basket, but not with that. Not with that. So I've seen, out of all of your scenarios, the old ones and the new ones, I don't like any of the suggestions for the Lakeview John
Okay.
General Way area. It just don't look like any of them would really work. I live off of Lakeview. I'm one of those ones that goes through Salem 5 to get over there home out of the General Way, or I'm making a left turn, depending on the time of the day. Just because, what's my other options? I gotta go, I don't know what my other options, I gotta go out all the way over by Walgreens to come out that way and come all the way around. It just makes more traffic on Main Street and Ash Street.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the solution is. I know that the history was no left turn for a reason, and for people cutting through, but also I know that there's a lot of residents that go to Market Basket and want to take that left turn because they're right there, instead of having to make a big loop, whether they go down and cut through Stop and Shop, or go down and cut through Salem 5, or go pull a U-turn somewhere. It happens all day long. I live right there. I have walked to Home Depot, but it's a long walk when you're carrying a 2x4 on your shoulder, so, and I have done that.
You got a wheelbarrow.
I've done that.
Loan them your
I do, there is definitely more walkability, like my kids would go over there more. So I'm still curious, I'd like to see better chances at that intersection, because I don't know if I like a rotary, but I don't know if I like the two separate signalized intersection. I feel like Lakeview needs to curve or something, or take away from Salem 5, so it's a single intersection instead of, 4 phases, instead of 2 phases instead of 4 phases.
Thank you for the comment. All things to consider that we can continue to come up with different concepts to evaluate.
Yeah, I'm a fairly new resident to Reading, and my partner Naomi and I are big walkers, and we do actually go with our walk basket and Stop Shop. Last weekend, we actually discovered the walking path from past the 95 that goes up to REI, which seems like has a lot of potential if it was like better known and had more of a way once you get to Walker's Brook. I know that the sidewalk from Home Depot would be great, because we were on the Stop and Shop side, and we were jogging all around, going over under 95 and crossing over and hoping people would notice us walking, and then cross over to that development there. So it's kind of it's tough, but it seems like that's something that could be maybe an easy fix just for making it better known.
Yeah, appreciate that note. We'll see what we can do. I'll work with conservation and some others on that.
Because I saw people jogging on it, walking on it. That's good. It goes right up to the side of the lake, donut place. I can't remember all the names. But then you can get to REI from there.
But you have to walk around that route.
Don't get started on that route.
Yeah, that's a different.
That one takes practice. That's different.
I like the better the other way. No lines, just free for all.
Did I miss anything on Zoom
I like
while
it
I got
better.
disconnected?
Everybody, this is where?
Any other lasting comments, questions?
I guess I do have one quick question. When we're looking at the properties between you and Stone Street, who owns the piece of property basically that's this triangle right here between
The town, it's town-owned.
It is town-owned?
Yeah.
Great. Yes, Karen.
Quick question to the deputy here. So we've had some water main breaks and things. How's the rest of that area looking? We're talking about a big project.
We're actually in great shape. We replaced that water main on Walker Brook. We had an emergency replacement that was 36 hours. We had to do it during around in October of a couple years ago, and then we finished up the remaining piece. So, and then the sewer is brand new out there. Back in 2004, I think, is when the last upgrade to Walker Brook Drive happened. So the drainage out there is also up to date. So we wouldn't really be seeing a lot of subsurface infrastructure changes, maybe some changes in the catch basins here and there, but maybe even that's minimal.
Right.
Maintaining that same footprint.
Coordinating with RMLD maybe to see if they can fit any improvements down there and maybe more underground infrastructure rather than overhead wires crossing the road, but all things to consider. In the corner.
So, I'm Glenn Colby. I live on Salem Street, just back in the neighborhood. So I do the walk from Salem Street past REI to Quantico every day, and when it's good weather. And every once in a while, it'd be nice to come back the other way also. To do that full loop down Walker's Brook. So I really like this new project that I'm seeing. And the things that we really need is, it looks like you haven't incorporated, are the left turns out of Market Basket, which is good. And coming from Wakefield, turning into that Stop and Shop Longhorn section, it definitely needs a turn light. And so it needs a dedicated turn light, which it looks like you have also in your plan, which is good. And it needs like a continuous walkway, like past Salem 5 and into Starbucks and all that. Like we tried going over that from the Lakeview side all the time. We just dread it because you can't turn left out of Market Basket, and it's just so difficult to walk to those areas now. And it looks like the new plan looks like it's going to solve a lot of these issues that we have. They get a lot more accessible by multiple modes for us. And but the only thing for I guess you're deciding between the turn light at the Market Basket or the traffic circle. The only thing I don't know about is how it's going to. Other people have been saying that Lakeview, like if you come around, you have people coming out of that. Is it going to stop? Is it going to make it more difficult to get out? Or is it okay? I don't know. But everything else looks good.
Yeah, because if you look at our design right now for the roundabout, there needs to be access modifications for the bank. There needs to be more thought about Lakeview and John Street, and I think that's why we're thinking about maybe it's a single lane and maybe less impact, but maybe more of like a driveway access. There's a lot of coordination that needs to be done right now, and I think we would love to hear more of your thoughts from the project team. Like, what are you all thinking for Lakeview and John? Are you all thinking maybe let's close John to Walker's Brook? Are we all thinking maybe wild idea, maybe closing access off of John and Lakeview and then directing it to another location? Like, that's what we want to hear. If it's a bad idea, awesome, but like that's what we want to hear from tonight. What are your thoughts?
So, can't close them both off.
Okay.
You gotta go out one way or the other.
Okay.
But one thing that I've always thought of was making Salem, if we start reconfiguring that section, is the bank exits on the Lakeview.
Okay.
And Lakeview gets twisted so it somehow lines up the general way. So you have a single point.
Yep.
Like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So you're not having a signal over here and a signal over here that have to be coordinated together. You need one that's just a four-way intersection with normal, not crazy lights. I think that's the only solution that I've seen, because the roundabouts, like a single lane roundabout, it's not going to work. Because right now, if I'm pulling out of Lakeview and I'm looking left to see if I can pull out, I'm watching the 2 lanes of traffic. If they're in the lane for turning, I know I should be okay to go. But if you have a single lane roundabout, I have no idea where those cars are going, whether to start going or not. So if you're going to do a roundabout, it has to be to me, it has to be the 2-lane one on the north side. But I don't like the idea of a roundabout there, so.
With the roundabouts, how do pedestrians cross and pass?
Pedestrians cross at the outer edges of those, and so there are crossings there. Yep, outside of the travel lanes in the actual circle itself. So that one doesn't have them.
Are you asking us tonight to tell you which of those intersections we prefer, or is that like the future?
I think right now general feedback on what sounds like it might make sense to look at further, what doesn't sound like it makes sense to continue looking at is helpful for us to keep narrowing options, and as we go back to the state and get their comments and the things that they might consider, we can say what we've heard and already looked at. So just general feedback I think right now is helpful, and what you may prefer certainly is a benefit to us as well, but I don't think we'll decide just on this room tonight. So.
Well, my 2 cents on that is I prefer a light. I find roundabouts, I've only recently moved to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And I lived someplace that didn't have roundabouts, and I find them, I don't like them. Kind of hard. I know they're supposed to be safer.
Save gas.
But I find them, I don't mind waiting for a light.
Okay, yeah.
I would say that we should probably, I would suggest connecting John Street up to Lakeview to minimize those intersections, because those 2 intersections, one right after the other, are tough.
Mhm.
Especially when, I think John Street typically is the primary one that people use.
Mhm.
People turning right out of Lakeview when you're trying to turn left onto John Street is a scary time.
Mhm.
So to be able to, just make one less intersection there if possible.
I want to go to it, but it's not perfect. That's what we were we have been thinking about this idea. Still, this isn't perfect because looking at the traffic volumes, there are a lot of people turning out of John Street. So in this configuration, it's basically saying John Street is stop, you're giving right away to Lakeview. Again, this is just like an idea because we hear you all. We want to think about how can we close access, and then for this configuration, Salem 5 Bank driveways would go to Lakeview as well. So for this option here is a signalized intersection with General Way in the sense that it's one light. General Way would go out, Lakeview would go out, Lakeview meaning John Street and the Salem 5 Bank. It's still not great though, looking at this design. We're still thinking about this since the 2024 phase.
Well, why not, have you thought about not having Lakeview come out there, just have it take the right onto John's and merge the 2?
We did, yeah. That was one of the first concepts, yep. Yep.
I mean, that would
Which I can
take you
pull it.
further away. I just don't know how much traffic's coming through Lake. It's not a lot. I mean, I know there's new housing projects, but would that make more sense?
Yeah, and John Street's a little further from that signal. You
Yeah,
probably
so
have a
safer.
bit more space, queuing spaces, so.
So you probably just take a turn.
Yep, that's still on the table. We got that one on there, so, yep. Brian?
I don't want to scare anyone, but we also did look at raised intersections in that area as well.
We did do that too, yep.
We've looked at a lot of things.
Just gonna jump to the Zoom before Dave, yeah.
One quick, just,
Yeah.
a gentleman mentioned when you have roundabouts, the pedestrian crossings, whoever made that
Yeah,
point.
you don't have a traffic light there.
Yeah, it's dangerous for pedestrians because there's no traffic light, so from that perspective, it sort of inhibits the goal of more pedestrian access, so, I mean, how do you think about that trade-off?
You could, I think it just depends on the location. We could potentially add a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, maybe not at every single location, but there are different ways to make it work though.
There's so many cars that are gonna be going through this that, I've seen those, but they're on much less traffic streets than this would be. So you'd have cars constantly doing this, and if you have people every time they hit the button, they're stopping it. It just seems like you gotta go with the signalized one.
So one thing I will mention about this roundabout, so you guys can see where the crosswalk is. So they're gonna be in the splitter islands. So comparative to an intersection, there's gonna be less crossing distance for the pedestrians. So they're not gonna be crossing 4 lanes of the road at a time. They're gonna have a refuge in the middle that if they do need to wait for a car to let them go, they do have that time. With a signal, you're gonna have an exclusive pedestrian phase. So that means someone has to walk up, push a button, the lights all have to go red, and then everyone goes. So say you have 3 pedestrians, but they're not there at the same time, and they're all pushing the button.
Oh, I see.
That's gonna disrupt
I
the
thought there
signal
was a whole
and the
different,
flow.
I thought there was a whole different plan other than this one, that's a signalized without a circle.
Yeah.
Traffic light, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Traffic light on this one, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then, you don't have that issue. Then. because nobody's hitting the button, because they have a traffic light to work.
So they.
Well, that's when you need the
So
button.
they will push a button.
Okay.
And it will alert the signal to say, hey, there's a pedestrian here, make the lights go red so that they are able to walk.
Okay.
So there's still gonna be pedestrian impacts on both ones, but the roundabouts are a little safer because it does reduce the crossing distance. So if you're looking at general way, there's a good width between, the median and the sidewalk. So that reduces with the roundabout, so they are a little safer for pedestrians to cross there.
Just to clarify, there's only one phase of pedestrian
Correct.
crossing
Correct.
on a signal, so
Yes.
it's not instantly turned red. We get that question a lot.
So then you would, so like as Peyton was just alluding, if there were 3 pedestrians that occurred at different times, say the cycle length was 100 seconds, that means a pedestrian would wait about like 100 seconds and then their phase would go, if that makes sense. Yeah, it is.
Gonna jump to Natalie on the Zoom, or if someone else had their hand up first.
Yep. Hi. I am just off of John Street, so just anecdotally speaking, I find that sometimes even like GPS's delivery, things like that, get Lakeview and John Street Court confused, and then they end up in John Street Court, and the two roads just kind of become a mess. I really love the recommended idea of somehow connecting General Way and Lakeview in some sort of twisted fashion where that becomes a straight road, because what that would be able to do is allow some traffic to move back into the neighborhood, into Beach Street and Green Street and wherever people need to go back to their homes after Market Basket and whatnot. So whoever recommended that, I think that was great.
Thank you. Kyle, and then maybe I'll take one more before we start to wrap up.
Have you guys thought about walking off both Lakeview and Johns and having it all come out of the village?
It's been mentioned. It feels, closing both accesses to the entire neighborhood to the earlier point feels tough, but getting them to Village Green in a straight shot into Walker's Brook, it's not a bad thing to look at, but I don't know that. Tony, if you want to add to this.
Well, I know a lot of people have said that they don't like walking right now to Home Depot, Starbucks, Market Basket, Stop and Shop, because it's dangerous. But there are currently crosswalks that are signalized at every intersection and sidewalks on both sides. So I'm concerned that whatever we're doing really isn't going to accomplish the increase in safety, So I wonder from people why you feel it's unsafe even though you currently have signals, crosswalks, and sidewalks.
There are sidewalks just down the way.
Yeah, there's not sidewalks.
Yeah.
There are sidewalks down the Market Basket.
Right.
There's one on the left-hand side.
It doesn't go all the way.
It only goes in the part of the driveway and then it turns into the parking lot.
Well, what do you think it's going to do? Go straight to the store door? No.
Part of the Eastern Gateway thing would be developing that area to make sure that you get from Walker Brook to the inside where it's safe the whole way.
But it's nothing more than parking your car far away from the store. You're still walking through the parking lot.
We're talking about pedestrian from the intersection.
From the intersection, you can get,
Right, but there are also cars that back out of those spaces along that line and they're not looking for pedestrians.
Honestly, my bigger concern with that is the cars don't even stand on the side of the road. That's, so, yeah, I mean, most people that I see walking in there, walk in the dirt on the right-hand side all the time. I mean, I don't know why, but that's where I see them. Because I think it's safer. Yeah, you come this way, you stay on this side.
You stay on that side, you don't cross over.
Yeah, and then
Cross over
it's,
again.
when you get to the end of the dirt area, you're in like a safer spot of the parking, you're not walking behind cars pulling out. Where if you're on that sidewalk side, does it even go to the stair? It goes to like the stairs to Stop and Shop, I think.
Goes to the stairs and stuff.
Yeah. So I see that too. But.
And I think like one thing is that we need to remember that yes, I may feel really comfortable, but maybe Andrew wouldn't feel comfortable. It's like we really need to accommodate for people of all ages and abilities. It varies. Like my perspective is going to be different from Andrew's. It really will be. It could be even different from like an older adult or like a young child. Like we just want to make sure that it accommodates for all people.
but nothing you're talking about today is going to solve the Journal Way sidewalk.
No.
Not the general way.
Up general way, no.
But if they do the,
Eastern Gateway?
buffer,
Oh.
yeah, like the buffer zone, so you have the curb, and then you have some sort of grass surface and then sidewalk, that's safer for parents and kids by a far. Like, right now, I used to walk over there with my kids when they were littler. I was always like making sure to stay over here, because you never know what a car's gonna do, you know? If you have more space, you know, that greenway just makes it feel safer. Even if it's only this wide, because that's usually all they are. But I can see the reason, because a lot of people, like the people that live in the Lakeview apartments there, I see them trying, you know, walking and lots of kids. But that's you know, my opinion on how this could change and make it more walker friendly. I do walk over there sometimes, not as often as I probably could, more or less because I'm just lazy. But
Tom Armstrong. I agree that the most difficult area is the general way area. I'll come back to the final comment on there later. But the entrance and exit on Walker's Brook to Stop and Shop, I closed that down. If you want to continue the bike and traffic, bike traffic and pedestrian traffic, I give them 2 entrances on crossing.
New crossing.
New crossing. One up closer to the top. One closer to the store. And I know how difficult this is. Going further down the road between the 2 restaurants and the businesses, I'd have a cross-through on the businesses' driveways into the restaurant driveways.
In between the lots.
Between the lots.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And the benefit to that would be you divert some of the traffic in, hopefully. When people would use it, they'd go to the next traffic light. And then the other one would be the businesses would have a walking path to the restaurants.
And I think all of this is speaking to the importance of having plans, concepts, and designs ready that if private development comes in, now there's a partnership opportunity that we have thoughts and designs ready that if private development is to occur, that they can either try for the town to ask to build it out themselves, or if we build it, they can tie into it, right? And so long-term wise, again, thinking about the collaboration of space, it's important for the town to have these considerations already before development happens and we're left with no answers or no asks. So looking at this now is a benefit, and hearing these thoughts is what leads to that.
So that's a key point about linking this to the Eastern Gateway, because that's a future long-term, who knows what happens, but to the gentleman's point about exiting from Shaw's parking lot, and adding to that, and adding to the pedestrian crossing there, just either omit it or just keep it with the entry in and force traffic there, but that's a decision that if done now, like you spend the money to add the extra right-hand turn out of the lot there, or in the future development for the Eastern Gateway development, maybe like, why are we even, now we've got this intersection there, we don't need it. So where's the timing on execution of street improvements here? Like when you want to have shovels in the ground, and compared to prospects for encouraging developers to look at, okay.
Yeah, so the TIP process is a multi-year process. So if you want to think about shovels in the ground, I'd say years away, 3 plus 5 even. For this, yep. So 5 to 7 years away if everything goes well and smooth. And private development, right? You're right. No idea if you put the zoning in 2026 and development comes in a year, 2, 6. But if you have the plan, if you have the plan, right, potentially that saves costs ultimately in the long run if it does happen before any TIP initiation, or you look for additional benefits and additional room, like different alternatives. So it will come down to timing, but I can't guess when private development may or may not happen.
And then when we're looking at the Mass DOT funding, the Transportation Improvement Program, so that's a 5-year program, but they update it every year. So they update it annually. So if there are projects that are slated in like the first 2 years, unless somehow this project comes to the top, we have to wait until there's funding available. So one is like, it's an annual program, but it's a 5-year funding program that could get updated. So we just want to get to be part of this transportation improvement program. But as Andrew said, we need to make sure that we actually have full money for design. Then we got to get construction. That's also a different set of funds. That's also all the funds that we need. It's not just construction, but we also need to have a full-blown plan for the funding of this.
Jane Loman, just to add on to that, an important point, sometimes other towns aren't ready when their funding is here. But if you're ready, you're 25% design and you're ready to go, you can go earlier. So the planning and the work that they're doing, that staff are doing right now, is setting us up and to put us in the best position to take advantage of another town not being ready, if that were the case.
Exactly. Thank you all for coming tonight. This is extremely helpful. We'll stick around for a few extra minutes. Library does close at 9, but we'll stick around if there's more specific questions or review. On the project website, you'll find the TIA, the plans, the renderings, everything is up there. So our next steps, there probably won't be some engagement for quite a few months as we work through the state comment process. But there's a subscription list on the website if you want to subscribe to stay up to date. We'll email you when we can and post more public forums. So thank you again for your time.
Is on the website
Yeah.
information